Princess Diana was always surrounded by attention, by the love of the people, but also by shadows. Those shadows became more and more frightening when Mohamed Al-Fayed came into her life. What secrets lurked behind his generous gifts and offers? What happened the day she ran out of his office shaking with fear? Stay tuned to find out how a personal tragedy turned into a real-life drama. Dirty old man, Daddy Al-Fayed's love for Princess Diana was not platonic. Master Yoda called the 30-year-old princess to her 60-year-old suitor. She jumped out of his office one day, all shivering. To her rock Paul Burrell, Diana delivered a verbatim obscene proposal to Al-Fayed. Diane called him an onk. After an incident that happened before her relationship with Dodi even began. The film producer's dad was a patient suitor. He had been courting Diana since 1986, when they met at a polo match sponsored by his department store. He showered the princess with gifts and allowed her to use the secret entrance to his Knightsbridge shop, continuing to play the role of her father and confidant. Harrods vans full of the latest gadgets and computer games would arrive at Kensington Palace, but Diana would send them back and her servant would arrive on foot, laden with new parcels. Burrell believes the billionaire was trying to buy her and take advantage of her vulnerability. Harrods became a safe haven for her. It was a stone's throw from her favorite restaurant San Lorenzo, and she loved spending time there. Fayed saw an opportunity to bring her into his domain. He let her use a secret tunnel that leads to the shop underground. He told her she could get anything she wanted for free and allowed her and the boys to shop late at night, but she refused. He gave her what the royals didn't give her. He organized an escape for her, and he knew what he was doing. He gave her the opportunity to explore a world she thought was safe. The butler had warned Diana to be careful with this man who could not be trusted. But Diana was of a different opinion. She told me, like Jackie Kennedy, I need to find an Onassis who will protect me. In 1997, Diana began dating Dodi after a holiday on his father's yacht, the Jonical, where the pair were filmed kissing on the deck. The puppeteer of the affair was his father. What he wanted most was to be associated with the royal family. Fayed bought a boat before this holiday so Dodi could entertain the princess in private. He spent millions trying to woo her, and his son was just a pawn in his game. Could Princess Diana have fallen victim to Al-Fayed's manipulations? Burrell recalls first witnessing Fayed's indecent touching of women back when he was the Queen's footman. He said, his hands were wandering around. He would literally put his hands on women without asking them. With Diana, he couldn't go too far. She always had the upper hand because he couldn't afford to lose her. Unfortunately, most of the women who worked for him didn't have that advantage. She recounted how Fayed used to put his hands on her all the time. People don't touch members of the royal family, but I saw him stroking her hand and lingering on it too long, kissing her hand almost like a pet and putting his arm around her waist. If he did that with Princess Diana, can you imagine what he did with other women? Can you imagine the power this man had in his shop? Everyone was afraid of him. When he entered a room, everyone would disappear or stand aside. What do you think? Was Dodi just a pawn in his father's game? If you're interested in learning more about the shocking details of Diana's life, subscribe to the channel and click the bells so you don't miss new videos. Diana's plan. Diana came up with a plan to safely communicate with Fayed when she went into Harrods. Every time Diana and her butler entered the department store, security would report to Fayed that she was there, and he would come down to meet and escort her around the department store. Paul thinks it was like a state visit. Diana simplified the greeting ceremony by going up to Fayed's office on the top floor of the department stores to say hello and chat for 5 to 10 minutes. After which he would stay in his office and she would walk through the shop. She didn't want to be alone with him any more than necessary. She breathed a sigh of relief when it was over and she could go shopping in peace. Diana described the top floor of Harrods as Al-Fayed's bubble. Diana said he was always surrounded by women in short skirts. She realized it was his harem. Diana sensed a predator. Diana saw the older man as a predator towards her. It was a predatory game, but he couldn't win at it. Diana was not going to participate in his game. He was always advancing and she was always retreating. She knew exactly who Fayed was, and one day he did cross the line. She was trembling, she felt sick. The incident happened before her relationship with Dodi began. Fayed bluntly told Diana that he wanted her to marry his son because, according to Egyptian tradition, the father always goes first. I'm going to rest with you. Do you think Al-Fayed really planned to become part of the royal family at any cost? Burrell says. I was in the car when she ran out of his office, all trembling, and said to me, her exact words, I want you to marry my son because in Egyptian tradition the father goes first. The butler was outraged to hear this, and remarked that Fayed was twice the princess's age. He was already in his 60s. Diana laughingly called the tycoon Yoda after the wrinkly green Star Wars character, and God because of his inflated ego. Can you imagine making love to Yoda? She called him creepy and slippery and complained about him putting his hands on her. Diane was disgusted at the thought of having to surrender to him. Making that comment set the stage for the meeting, and he was serious. He believed it was his right and that it would actually happen, that he would actually sleep with the Princess of Wales. And she was always mindful of that throughout her affair with Dodi. Diana would support his victims if she were alive today. Paul Burrell's revelations come in the wake of a BBC documentary in which dozens of female department store staff revealed they were assaulted and raped by Al-Fayed while he was the owner of Harrods from 1985 to 2010. Burrell believes that if Diana were alive today, she would support the victims. I don't think she would have been surprised by the allegations because she knew he had behaved abhorrently towards women. She wouldn't have been surprised because he proposed to her. That I'm going to sleep with you comment finally settled the matter for me. It showed his true character because he thought he was God at Harrods, and if he was treated like God, he could get whatever he wanted and whoever he wanted. If Princess Diana had been here, she would have stood up with them and joined in and said, well, it could have happened to me. But it didn't. Thank God. But I'll be with you all the way to the end. She was talking about her own experience. I wish she were here to tell you that. These women were brave enough to come forward and expose Fayed. And Princess Diana is part of that group. She is with them. She's one of them. Do you think Diana could have avoided this game? Leave your opinion in the comments below, and don't forget to give us a like if you're interested in learning more.